It's my pleasure to welcome everyone to the Finance and Physical Resources Committee. It is Tuesday, January 21st. It is 8:30 a.m. I'd like to welcome my fellow commissioners, staff, guests we have this morning in the audience. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come to our meeting. We really appreciate it. And with that being said, I will move to public comment. Is there any public that would like to address the Finance and Physical Resources Committee this morning? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment. That will bring us to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Support.
We have moved and supported. You guys get that? Okay. Perfect. You found a moved, you found a supported. We're good. Anything have to be pulled? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 3 from the Administrator's Office. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to allocate $3.2 million in Ready by 5 early childhood millage funds for 2020, as recommended by First Steps Kent. The Ready by 5 Allocation Review Committee reviewed all proposals submitted by First Steps Kent for this round of funding. First Steps Kent received a total of 27 proposals and recommended funding for 23. The allocation amounts for home visiting and health development programming, play and learning communities programming, and health and safe home program services were recommended by the Ready by 5 Proposal Review Committee on December 13, 2020. The recommendations were approved by the First Steps Kent Commission on January 16, 2020. The amount of $3.2 million will be allocated to contracts that begin March 2020 and run through December 2020.
Is there a motion to approve? All right, we have moved and supported, moved by Commissioner Sparks, supported by Commissioner Bolkowski. Okay. And let's go ahead and have comments, questions, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Bolkowski.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start us off, or whatever. 2 questions. Well, first comment, thank you to the committee that did this work. As a provider in another pot of millage dollars, I know what it is as one proposer, let alone having to look at all that and go through all that, reading the things and the interviews and all that. So again, thank you to the folks who are here that were part of that process. That being said, the big question of we have an allocation for 2020 and we have amounts for 2021. So is that to assume those are kind of penciled in if all goes forward? We'll get like in December or something to approve 2021?
You want to come up, Matthew? And we've already approved the first allotment of funding for
No, I remember we did that earlier, but
Right.
this has 2 columns when it gives us the actual grants, 2020 and 2021.
So Commissioner Bolkowski, we've been working with First Steps to look at 2-year grants
Okay.
to make sure that there's time to get set up and get running.
Yep.
And then so we have consistency across the second year. And then it would also allow for more time to evaluate how the programs are working. So the numbers that are penciled in for year 2 will be part of the budget that you approve in year 2. But we're not anticipating going out for an RFP again for these services. We're going to do a 2-year contracts. But if they go well, it's great. If they don't, then we'll be on top of it and working with the provider to improve the service.
Okay, so again, we'll have an action item in December to approve these amounts unless something were to change.
We actually have a
second column.
contract that will be for 2 years. So we can put the money in the budget as part of the general millage or the general appropriation act. Or we can come back and do it second recommendation for a second year.
the dollars would be included in the General
Yeah.
Fund Appropriation Act for 2021. It's how we would do that. And you would have the opportunity to approve those in 2020.
Okay, I'm just trying to be clear on what we're approving today. I mean, because it says we're just approving the 3.2 million, not the entirety of the,
Yeah, so there'd be another vote on the second part
All
of
right.
this through the General Appropriation Act.
cool. All right. And then one
Go ahead.
little nit, most of the grants look to be, you know, an 8-month contract and then a 12-month contract, plus or minus. I didn't pull the calculator out, but I looked about that. However, two jumped out. One was Healthy Homes Coalition, which had a pretty small amount, I mean, relatively small amount this year and a much larger amount next year. I'm trying to find it.
Page 3, bottom.
Yeah, so there was Healthy Homes, and then the very last one, the Early Learning Community Play and Learn Groups. So that went from also a pretty significant jump from 1 to 2, so why are these two
I'm gonna ask
so?
Sonder to come up and who was part of the process and she can talk to those.
Okay,
that
why
time.
those are different than
Yeah.
everybody else? All right, thanks.
Commissioner Bukowski, in response to your question regarding the Healthy and Safe Homes screening, Healthy Homes indicated in their proposal that they needed some time to ramp up. It's difficult, as I'm sure you can relate, for a smaller agency to receive a large influx of cash and not be ready and prepared to spend it in the way that is most appropriate. So it was felt that we would provide them some funding for their initial year to get
Yep.
them to where they need to be, and then for the next year, they would be more prepared.
All right, and then the last one is community college, which is not a small organization, unless that is a small project within that large organization. Again, going from 250 to 420, it's the very last item. Those are the two that just jumped out.
Yes, the community college play and learn groups have had some funding challenges from long-term funders. So really, they've been wiped out with their funding. They have great success, they have great outcomes, they've done well. So that's why you see additional funding for them. Again, it's that first year is when they still have some of the additional funding, but the second year, that money will be gone.
Okay.
So this is filling that gap to make sure that those services continue.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a quick question about the total amounts in each of the subcategories. Were those determined ahead of the RFP, or were they determined by the number of grant requests you received in each one? And if they were determined before the RFP was sent out, what guided that determination?
The funding amounts were not predetermined because this is so new. There was really no way of knowing how many proposals would come in and how to predetermine how much to put in each pot. Really need to have just get the second round actually of funding through so we could see what the asks were. And again, based on how they came in and based on the process, I'm not certain that the committee will move forward in a way that categorizes specific funds per bucket.
Okay.
Because it just makes sense to put the funds where the needs are.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to say that I was very privileged to be part of this process, to participate with such individuals that had compassion, care, and concern for our community. This whole row right here, just totally amazing. And then you, Ms. Sandra Gosen-Jones, to have her experience at the table. What I'm most proud about this project is I believe that the way that they set this up, we're going to be able to do the most good for the longest period of time that we can. That's one. And two, I love the fact that we were inclusive of all of Kent County. So it was not that we were just focusing, even though it may appear that they're more of the 5903 gets more of the money or whatever, but we were more thoughtful about other areas receiving funds too, so that all children and their families, could be part of this. So I'm very honored, and it was a very interesting process. My head actually hurt, like, for 3 days. I don't think I've ever thought so much, but it was worth it. So thank you very much for making that a process that was very meaningful, all of you. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right. Thank you very much. Seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 4 from the Health Department. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to the board to accept and appropriate $50,000 from the Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation to the 2019-20 Health Fund budget and authorize the board chair to, or designate to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriations not to exceed 15% of the original award. The Addressing Perinatal Opioid Disorder Grant will support the goals of the Prosperity Region 4 Perinatal Quality Collaborative to connect perinatal women struggling with substance use disorders to resources in the community. Michigan Recovery is a resource-finding website that connects individuals struggling with substance use disorder to recovery support and treatment opportunities in their community. The Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation grant funds will be used to enhance the Michigan Recovery website to include perinatal-specific resources for women, providers, and friends and family to share with those in need. Total cost of the program is $63,100 and includes salary and benefit costs, contractual costs, and indirect support. $50,000 of this cost is funded by the Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation grant. The remaining $13,100 is county general fund previously appropriated to the 2019-2020 health fund budget and will be transferred from other health department programs. This agreement period is January 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021. In the event grant funding is eliminated and/or decreased, the positions funded by this grant will be eliminated unless continuation funding is approved pursuant to the fiscal policy on grants, contracts, and donations.
Thank you, Wayman. Is there a motion to approve?
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Questions, comments, and discussion? Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
My quick question is, well, maybe it won't be quick, I don't know. When I read the subject, I thought this is awesome. You know, again, the opioid crisis is real. How are we helping, unborn children whose parents are addicted? So again, awesome stuff. And then it says, yeah, we're going to enhance the website in the narrative, which is, yeah, I guess you got to enhance a website. But then when I went to the grant summary, it's like $45,000 to enhance the website. I don't know a lot about substance use disorder. I'm just thinking, who are these resources for, and are people searching the web? And we just approved, over $3 million of like people going to work with people. So one-on-one, as opposed to, wow, I don't know, it just seems like a lot of cash for just a website.
Right. Thank you. And what the grant is for is to expand those resources. So the Prosperity Region Perinatal Quality Project is across 13 counties. So My Recovery was originally supported by an LRE grant. And one of the things with the current myrecovery.info website is, yes, it has a lot of information and resources out there, both for healthcare providers, for individuals, for families struggling with or who are in recovery or struggling with substance use disorder. However, when those 13 counties took a look at some of the data and information and resources, there's a significant gap in resources specifically for pregnant women struggling with substance use disorder. So while, yes, $45,000 does seem a lot for a website, it is the time and effort that's going to go in to identify what all those resources are in those counties, as well as taking that information and resources and putting them in different categories. Again, if a provider needs access to resources when they're screening for people for substance use, they can click on that to get to the resources that they need. The other thing that we're hearing from many women and families in some of these home visiting programs is they're calling one place and they're not getting what they need. They're calling another place, but My Recovery will allow to have that centralized place, one place where people can go for all resources. So it's going to take quite a bit of time and effort to get that in. The other thing I wanted to mention overall with that perinatal regional project is there's other components of this. So the website, yes, for this funding is for one thing, but there's also working on a universal screening to identify women who are at risk for substance use before they become pregnant, as well as the needs that they have after they deliver. So that's that universal screening is a part of that. And the second prong of that perinatal project is to increase referrals into home visiting programs so that nurses can do that case management that many women need.
Hey, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Where are folks going for this treatment?
Good question. So for the treatment right now, we have to identify what all those resources are in the community. So whether it's for opioid use disorder or substance use disorder, in Kent County, it would be any of the substance use treatment agencies here locally, which could be anywhere from this first stop could be Network 180 as an access point center. It could be, so Network 180 through their different providers. So the treatment would be locally here to any of the substance use treatment agencies. And then again, for the families, depending on their need, whether it's for treatment or for support systems, it could be a number of the community-based agencies right here in Kent County. Yeah, I'm sure Cherry Street's on there. They're currently on the myrecovery.info website. So Cherry Health as a behavioral health center is one point. There's probably hundreds of them. I can't list all of them right now, but again, at that website, it does list some of the current ones, and there is a wealth of information out there already on the website. It's just having a tab so that if you're pregnant or you're a family member who's supporting someone who's pregnant, they can go right to that specific section of the site to identify where they need to go.
So we're confident people that need help can get it in a timely fashion?
Absolutely.
No waiting lines or?
Correct.
Thank you.
Hey, Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your work on this, Teresa. This seems like I think we forget about the mothers that are addicted, and that has such a long-term effect, even on the children. Did you say that this was over 13 counties?
Yeah, the perinatal collaborative is over 13 counties. And that was from a state-supported grant. On the myrecovery.info website, when the funding came from that was specific for Kent County, but soon the state of Michigan saw a need to kind of expand that out, recognizing that people are crossing borders here, but we did start the website here internally in Kent County.
Hey, anyone else? All right, thank you very much. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 5 from Kent County Community Action. Wayman.
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to approve a memorandum of understanding between Kent County and the City of Grand Rapids for a regional analysis of impediments to fair housing choice and regional consolidated housing and community development plan for 2020-25, and to authorize the board chair or designee to sign the MOU. In 2012, the county was awarded a grant from the state of Michigan's Competitive Grant Assistance Program to study potential consolidation of the Community Development Office with the cities of Grand Rapids and Wyoming. At the conclusion of the study, it was determined not to merge due to an estimated cost of $500,000 annually in federal HUD funds if a merger were to occur. Following the 2012 study, Kent County, the City of Grand Rapids, and the City of Wyoming selected a consultant to prepare a regional consolidated housing and community development plan as required by HUD for 2016 through 2020. The plan ends later this year. Staff from the City of Grand Rapids and Kent County are proposing to conduct a regional plan for the required analysis of impediments to fair housing, choice, and consolidated housing and community development program, and will, for the analysis of 2020-25. The two jurisdictions are proposed to share the consultant services and fees of 2010 of $110,300 in equal proportion of $55,150 each. Additionally, Kent County will reimburse Grand Rapids for 50% of the grant Grand Rapids staff time dedicated to contract management and required publications, not to exceed $16,030. The MOU will result in cost savings and sharing of staff resources by two entities. Corporate Counsel will review and approve the MOU as to form prior to signature.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Questions, comments, and discussion? Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just applaud staff working on this. The idea of us coming together to, one, save both of us some money, but also to come together and see what different barriers exist to getting people housed across the spectrum, I think is really important, and just very thankful that we'll be doing this together.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Just trying to let others have a crack. Quick, why Wyoming's not part of it this time around? Do they still get CDBG funding on their own?
The city of Wyoming chose not to be a part of the group project. They went out on their own, but yes, they still get CDBG funding.
Okay, it was their choice.
It was their choice.
All right. And then just on the company entity that's going to do the plan and then the impediments to fair housing, Community Planning Insights, is that a local group? And I ask because it almost, I don't want to say it's 100% of the time, but most of our studies of impediments to fair housing have been done by the Fair Housing Center. And so I was surprised not to see the Fair Housing Center here.
It is not a local group. We received 4 responses to the RFP, and none of the responses were local. There was one from Michigan.
Okay. These folks are from Michigan or no?
No, I believe this one is Indiana.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for your work on this. You're always working so hard. I just want to make sure that we give people in Michigan a chance to apply. Is there another way that we think we can get engagement from people in Michigan for these grants when they come along like this?
You know, we have a list of vendors that we usually send out to and really try to encourage them to apply. You know, I'm not sure their decision as to why not to. These are some big projects that take up a lot of time. And I know that the one vendor that we worked with in 2012, they responded that they were unable to apply due to other commitments that they had made. And they were Michigan-based.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 6 from Fiscal Services. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to the board to create North County Campus Project in the 2020 Capital Improvement Program Fund to appropriate $12.5 million from the Strategic Capital Project in the CIP Fund to the new project and to assign project management to the Kent County Building Authority. The Strategic CIP project, Capital CIP project was established in 2015 to set aside funding for future capital needs and to reduce the size of debt associated with large capital projects. Any use of the strategic capital funding must be appropriated by the board for a specific project before it can be spent. Over the last several months, there have been board work sessions. There appeared to be support for the building on a North County campus with funds set aside in the Strategic Capital Project Fund and the CIP Fund. It is recommended that the $12.5 million be appropriated to the 2020 North Campus project from the Strategic Capital Project and the CIP Fund. It is further recommended that the project management be assigned to the Kent County Building Authority, which will allow the Board of Commissioners to utilize the efficiencies of the authority's process to manage the multiple contracts involved with this project.
Is there a motion to approve? So moved. Support. Okay, moved and supported. Questions, comments, and discussion? Yes, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's my turn to speak now. All right. Just a little reminder to my colleagues, I think we bought this property back in 2005, 6, and there when I was 5, I was vice chair when we decided that we really needed to have some resources in the south and the north ends of the county, and it's nice to see that we're finally able to do this. And it's really nice to see that we're in a position where we don't have to bond to pull this off. So, thank you.
Commissioner Wooden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, just echo my senior colleague's remarks and the long time that he's also spent on this, and just thank him for his work on it, and for the process that we've had on all three of these projects. I had one question regarding, I was very thankful to see in the responses that we sent about the hoteling concept and the shared space concept. I was, when it comes to the design, final layout of this complex, will those staff persons, will those clinician staff be involved in the design, layout of it, so that we can maximize its potential and the potential of our health clinic and our sheriff's substation?
I would say that we've done a lot of programming already on this project.
Okay.
But there's also a final design process that has to happen. So Al and the team, once we select a final architect, will probably be reaching out to talk about all that with the design folks.
Perfect.
So-
I only ask because just in my own personal experience, I've had issues where I haven't asked the question of people who end up using space that I've played a hand in designing, and then my foot's in my mouth. So I'm very thankful that we'll be doing something similar.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Womack?
Yes, and as there's some upgrade to this fleet facility, do you know how many jobs that may add when we talk about some of the other services that will be happening within this fleet facility?
I'm not certain exactly about jobs associated at this point, but this, for the North County campus, the fleet that we're talking about that would be there are a few cars that the sheriff would have, and then potential senior services, busing and stuff. But in terms of the jobs, I'm not certain at this point.
Well, the jobs that would be created through the construction of the facility, there are jobs there. And I'm sure as a result of this, there will be a domino effect in that region in terms of growth in that area, from retail to other services that would be connected to the program.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I see it's gonna resolve some issues for the sheriff department and help in the future. When we look at the time that some of that funding was canceled during the Great Recession, how would this facility be effective if we are to go into another recession within the next decade or 8 years to the next decade?
Commissioner Womack, we're on the north substation, we're not on the fleet.
Okay.
So
not
we're
in
getting to
fleet.
the fleet. There are
Okay.
three separate action items.
Okay.
So this one is just the north substation.
And with the north substation, how, will all of this be self-sustaining, that if we do, have financial times that?
Yes. I can answer that
Yeah,
question.
that's your simple question, thanks.
My answer would be yes, we would be able to sustain the program. What we're simply doing is putting us in a better position to be more efficient in the northern part of the county. Of course, in any recession, the board has the obligation to ensure that we have a healthy balance in our funds, and of course, we never know, but
Yeah.
right now, we're in a very good position, especially knowing the fact that we did not have to go out and bond for these projects.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mr. Morgan there that we have the money to do it. It's a great time, and just my hats off to the sheriff department and everybody in that area that's been making do with what we do have, and totally supportive. Just had a few questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioner Antor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Was this project originally, did it fall under prevailing wage at one time when we were first starting this? And has that changed midstream? Never
No.
was? Okay.
This is not a federal project.
State projects too, right?
Federally granted.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Bukowski?
I too want to echo Commissioner Morgan's original comment of, it's great to be doing this. I think this is an awesome model to have something, again, closer to folks, and just the movement around the county as not being required to get some access to some good basic services and supports, which we do extremely well in the county. That being said, I also want to echo Commissioner Wooden's comments, as we've really planned this out, are we planning for our 2020 needs? Because some of us are old enough that 2020 was this far-off distant date. And when we cut the ribbon on this building, 2020 will be in the rearview mirror. And so are we planning for 2030? As best we can. Again, we have no idea what the sheriff, how, she or the next sheriff will be doing their job in 2030 or 2040. At the same time, will there be capacity in that building or just to add on to stuff? And then the hoteling is a great first concept. Just that programming of that space. We have this awesome opportunity.
Yeah.
Again, 15 years ago, we had the foresight to purchase this. Are we gonna have the foresight to just,
Yeah.
again, not to say have fun in the design, because we
Yeah.
don't have fun with design. We're gonna be effective and
Oh.
cost conscious.
I'll have
Yeah.
Al Jano talk about the site in particular, but let me just say this before he talks about the site. The sheriff does a really fine job, and her staff, in identifying the future needs and the growth patterns of the community with their system, tracking the number of calls, where the calls come from. We work with them, we meet with them yearly to talk about the growth patterns and what the staffing requirements are for the sheriff's department. But that's really mainly why this building is being built. Health department's also being located there along with these auxiliary programs and services. But I think we've got a good eye on how we need to match up with the growing needs in the community with the staff from the sheriff's office, the health department, so we will be ready. But Al can talk about the site and what the capacity it has for the future.
Little recap on that for the planning and such. Of course, we always look forward to the future also, and we've done months of planning with a wonderful team from the sheriff's department and a wonderful team from the health department respectively, to get to the point of as Commissioner Wooden shared about designing the building for the people that are going to use it and their future needs. Of course, we've taken that into consideration. The hoteling areas, yeah, that's what they are, is hoteling areas. We have 14 acres. We're gonna consume some of that with a drive going in and parking lot and the building. It might be in the years to come that we add another ancillary building to do some of those other services that are currently by the hoteling, which would then free up more space within that building for either sheriff's department or health department. That's to your point, 15, 20 years from now. We always do that whenever we do a project. We always look for where we're going to be, like when we did in 2009, in November of 2009, we opened up the 63rd District Court. There's already one extra courtroom in there, just in case. We didn't overbuild too much, because magistrates use it and magistrates can share in the future. But for what we're doing up there, we also wanted to be responsible enough to say, well, we don't want to build exactly for 20 years because we don't know what we're going to need. And we want to be able to afford to do something now, because we really need both of these. We've been in a rental facility for many years north, so
Yeah.
this is a well-needed and well-received project and extremely well-planned.
Hey, are you good?
I mean, just, yeah, have absolutely no question or qualms about today and the need and moving the two existing, one rental and one outdated. Absolutely support that movement. It's just, are we doing enough in?
That's why we had so much
Yeah.
input from the sheriff's department and health department to help cover.
And Al, that location, that site also has the ability to be expanded upon, am I correct?
To add to the 14 acres? Well,
Not to add to the 14
No.
acres, but within that,
there's
That
other,
acreage.
there's other building sites within that 14 acres also, yes. Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the second time on this topic. Boy, you hang around Commissioner Bolkowski, you hear all these new terms like hoteling and stuff. So I appreciate that. So is that just consolidation of some of the services, or just building for the future?
yeah, that's basically what it is. It's a temporary landing spot for people
It's hard to
that are
keep up with.
transient.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, I just think that when the time comes, we'll have the players at the table and we can hash that out. I just, a word of caution, we can't be everything to everybody, and then by 2030, I'm gonna be in a rearview mirror. So I wanna make sure that we do this thing right, so, thanks.
Commissioner Wooden for the second time.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the second time. Forgive me for forgetting this question the last time. Have we talked at all with our county clerk, register of deeds, and our county treasurer to see if they can potentially also use some of this shared hoteling space, maybe not every day, but have a day where a clerk staff is there to take voter registrations or issue certain permits and licenses that could be available?
That's the beauty of hoteling space, is that we have those options now in the final design process to have those discussions.
Cool.
So we've got space built in, and so now we can figure out, the best use of the service.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, before we go to a vote, I just want to hit a little bit harder on the actual services. I know we've covered these through the work session, but we have potentially a number of people who are watching this who might not be up to speed with the work sessions. So if we could just get a summary, Matthew, of the efficiencies we expect from the health department, the improvement of services we expect from the sheriff's department. Why don't we just hit some of those bullet points before we go ahead and vote?
Sure, thanks. For the sheriff's office, they're going to be able to actually dispatch cars and whatnot now from the 17-mile service area. Additionally, they'll have cars stationed there, so the response times will hopefully be better than they are now coming from the Fuller campus. Additionally, you're going to see shift change, big changes at the Fuller campus. There'll be less shift changes there and up at 17 Mile, which will lead to efficiencies too for the Fuller campus, because it's really a lot of people moving in and out at that time. So that's on the sheriff's side of the house. There might be other things too that will have clearly more response for consumers, residents, that they can get prints and other things up there as well. On the health department side, you've got a fully integrated clinic that we'll own, that's been planned out well. So immunizations, WIC, other services that they've identified for the Northern County. So that's on that side. And then with FOC, Community Action, Veteran Services, we're talking specifically about access to those services for residents in Northern County. And hoteling space would allow potentially for opportunities of other services to look at how they can deliver differently in Northern Kent County too. This is a growing area of our county. I mean, if you look at the demographics, Rockford and Comstock Park and North, this area is definitely growing. Cedar Springs. So to provide services locally will be a much better response than having to drive into the core of the county.
Well, we have a contract with Cedar Springs.
Yeah.
Hey, Commissioner Womack for the second time?
Quick question, Matt. Could you tell us a little bit about the time it will take for this to be completed?
So in your packet, there's a timeline. I would refer you to that. It looks something like this. North Campus, we expect the whole process to take 24 months once we have approval from the board.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, anyone else? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. That brings us to item number 7 from Fiscal Services. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to create a Parks Office and Visitor Center project in the 2020 Capital Improvement Program Fund and to appropriate $2.6 million from the Strategic Capital Project in the CIP Fund to the new project and to assign project management to the Kent County Building Authority. The Strategic Capital CIP project was established in 2015 to set aside funding for future capital needs and to reduce the size of debt associated with large capital projects. Any use of the strategic capital funding must be appropriated by the Board of Commissioners before it can be spent. Over the last several months, there have been board work sessions on infrastructure needs and how the county might address them. At those work sessions, there appeared to be support for building a Parks Office and Visitor Center with funds set aside in the Strategic Capital Project and the CIP Fund. It's recommended that the $2.6 million be appropriated in the 2020 Parks Office and Visitors Center project from the Strategic Capital Project in the CIP Fund. It is further recommended that the project management be assigned to the Kent County Building Authority, which will allow the Board of Commissioners to utilize the efficiencies of the authority's process to manage the multiple contracts involved with this project.
Is there a motion to approve? Okay, moved and supported, and we'll take questions, comments, and discussion, and we'll start with Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you once again, Madam Chair. I think it's like what was old is new again. Back in 2004, 2002, we were talking about building a new parks, building on top of silos or something. And so that went away. Not too unhappy that did go away, but we've been talking about this for a long, long time, and it's always been just on the top of my list to make this parks building a building that reflects Kent County. And so I'm really excited, as you can tell in my voice, that we're able to do this, and I just can't get over that we're in a position to do this. So, hey, congratulations.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Yeah, I too am excited about the project. It's the right thing to do. Unfortunately, I got really excited when we had the work session about potentially, and there was never a guarantee that the DNR would agree to have one of their centers next to us, so I understand that part of it. At the same time, you get ideas, and some of those ideas are really cool, and you get attached to those ideas. However, when we read that the reason why the DNR potential ended is because we don't know exactly how much that ground at that site can support because of the gypsum mines underneath it. So again, where I am 100% in favor of the visitor center and the parks office building happening, is this really the best spot for it? Do we have the opportunity to expand if we need to? And so again, this isn't at all about the project. 100% in favor of the project. The visitor center, I think, will be cool. I hope the Parks Foundation comes along. However, the DNR can't be there. Should we?
Matthew?
So I want to let you know that the DNR Visitor Center is not forgotten. We spent 3 hours on Friday afternoon with other stakeholders working on locations in the general area that might also be sufficient for the idea. So please don't think that just because this site is not the right site, it's not being still thought about. In terms of our needs at this site, yes, we've identified enough places where on the property we can do our office, or create our office, and have room for expansion and whatnot. It's just with the amount of traffic that we would have thought about and the amount of size that the current DNR Visitor Center has in Southeast Michigan, that this just wasn't the place to add all of that as well. So there is footprint for Kent County Parks and Visitor Center. We've got a nice facility for the Blue Barn, we call it, out there for our supply needs and whatnot. This is the right location. There's no doubt about that for our operations. It's just we can't do both and in this one, but the and is still being out there. It's being considered, and we're having real conversations with potential partners about how we might be able to make that happen in other spots.
All right.
Okay, anyone else for the first time? For comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to our second stab, Commissioner Morgan.
Real quick, we looked at other sites for this in the past. I hate being the historian here, but we really felt strongly, and I still do, that we have just a great park in Millennium Park. It's an urban park, and a lot of us felt at that time that the park's headquarters should be situated at one of our gems, and Millennium Park is one of our gems. So that's why we selected that site. Very much.
Okay, Commissioner Whitten?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going off on actually a point discussed in when the Parks Department came and gave, or the Parks Foundation and Parks Department came and gave their annual review. Has there been additional talk, not necessarily using these funds, but additional funds to develop some kind of shuttle service from either the Rapid Station or from some other place where folks who don't have access to a car can get more ready access to Millennium Park as well as the Parks Department office and visitor center?
Yeah, those discussions are happening too. It's all part of the visitors, DNR center and whatnot, and what we'd have to do to accommodate all of that. So those are being discussed.
Perfect, thank you.
Commissioner Bukowski for the second time.
Yeah, I guess to follow up on Commissioner Morgan, again, the question or the comment wasn't that this wasn't the right spot. The concern was, is this right spot able to literally support a building above it? Because there's a lot of holes underneath it, you know, in the sense of the gypsum mines. And so again, that was my concern, is that once we dig a foundation, what happens?
I missed that entirely.
I got you, yeah. So again, I'm not at all, I totally agree, the proximity to Millennium Park is awesome, and again, it's what's below it, and if a big piece of machinery falls a few hundred feet straight down, whose insurance covers that? I hope it's the contractors. Because again, there's big holes there that were dug 100 years ago. How well did people keep records? I've just watched enough History Channel to know there's weird things out there. And that being said, again, and to Commissioner Wooden's point about movement of people, you know, as you know, I like public transportation. However, I like the new aspects of public transportation. If you have the opportunity to go to the North American International Auto Show in Detroit in June this year, there's 3 providers that are testing automated vehicles. So those are some opportunities, you know, like an automated shuttle between the zoo and Millennium Park could solve for this as opposed to a 40-foot bus rumbling up and down Butterworth. So there's great opportunities as we go forward as a county for looking for mobility. So yes, absolutely, don't forget that thought. At the same time, let's think about cool new stuff that would have a way better price point for everybody. So, cool stuff.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item 8 from Fiscal Services. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to create a fleet facility project in the 2020 Capital Improvement Program Fund and to improve $3.5 million from the Strategic Capital Project in the CIP Fund to the new project and to assign project management to the Kent County Building Authority. The Strategic Capital Project was established in 2015 to set aside funding for future capital needs and to reduce the size of debt associated with large capital projects. Any use of the strategic capital funding must be appropriated by the board for a specific project before it can be spent. Over the last several months, there have been board work sessions on infrastructure needs and how the county might address them. At those work sessions, there appeared to be support for building a fleet facility with funds set aside in strategic capital project in the CIP fund. It is recommended that $3.5 million be appropriated to the 2020 fleet facility project from the strategic capital project in the CIP fund. It is further recommended that the project management be assigned to the Kent County Building Authority, which will allow the Board of Commissioners to utilize the efficiencies of the authority's process to manage the multiple contracts involved with this project.
Is there a motion to approve?
Support.
Moved and supported, and questions, comments, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a project that probably I understand well and pretty excited that we're finally in a position to do this. There's a few of us on this board, Commissioner Antor and myself, that have been in emergency vehicles and understand the importance of maintenance and keeping those vehicles well maintained and the liability that comes with that. So my question is this facility big enough to handle our needs? Because I treat emergency vehicles and emergency response vehicles in a whole different category than just going to your local dealership and getting your brakes replaced. So I know personally we put about 1 million miles on the ambulances, and I'm thankful I have a very good mechanic that can keep my ambulances on the road, because when they're in a response, the last thing we need is a catastrophic failure. So My question to you, Al, is this building big enough to suit our needs?
Everything we programmed into this initial cost estimate and such says yes, and in the future also. So we have capacity, we have mechanics, we have architectural team and engineers that have reviewed and standard practices for other fleet facilities, and the answer is yes.
Okay. And just a final point, Madam Chair, my liability is not pushing drugs or doing all the invasive stuff. My liability is running down the road. Emergency. That's where all my liability is. So just food for thought. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Voorhees.
Thank you, Chair Jones. My history has been concern over municipalities maintaining inventories and parts and not utilizing the businesses that are doing that right in our community. Where are we as the county in that? Are we carrying this kind of an inventory that we should be utilizing local business?
We don't, I guess from what you shared, Commissioner Voorhees, we don't do what those other counties are doing. There's oftentimes a couple, maybe even more than a couple deliveries per day. At least a couple deliveries a day. The parts room that we've needed and operated from very well, it's easy to operate on it just in time with fleet services because so many parts are so available from so many people. So again, we're not doing what those other people are doing. We're doing it better, more efficient.
Hey, Commissioner Breedy?
Thank you, Chair. I just think of the technology and, everything that was available in the late 50s for working on a vehicle compared to what it is now in 2020. And I think it's pretty incredible how our vehicles have changed and, technology and the mechanics that are working on them, the tools that they use and the knowledge they have. I think this will be a incredible upgrade and, bringing us into the next generation, several generations later of what's available. So I think it's just a great benefit. It's a good, safe thing too for the people that will be working there. And I look forward to seeing the final result.
Okay, Commissioner Wooden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to echo the sentiments of previous comments. I'll fully admit when this was first presented to us, I did have pause, but given the additional information that staff has provided, the ability to ask questions, the ability to get more data, certainly see the value in this, and I intend on voting on it. I did realize one thing, reading the resolution a second time over. I think I may have noticed a slight error. In the third whereas, it says it is recommended that $12.5 million be appropriated to the 2020 Fleets Facility Project from the Strategic Capital Project and CIP Fund, assuming this was maybe help using the North Kent complex as maybe a template. It does say, be it further resolved, we appropriate $3.5 million. Is that an error? And
That's an error.
Do we need to amend it?
Yes.
I would like to, I guess if that's the case, I would move that we amend the third whereas to strike the $12.5 million and replace it with $3.5 million.
No.
Oh,
Yes, you're correct.
I would offer it as a friendly
Yes,
amendment.
correct.
Do we need to vote on that?
On a capital improvement, on a budget, I would appreciate a vote on it, yes.
Okay, so amendment, how do we do that? Amendment given and supported.
On the
So,
resolution.
Yeah.
On the resolution. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. And that was on the amendment to correct the resolution.
Resolution, yes. A typo.
Commissioner Bukowski's next.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Wooden, for that catch. I keep referencing Commissioner Morgan, and unlike him, this is the one I know least about. And so when this was first proposed, it was like, what, $3.5 million for a garage? And so I thank Commissioner Morgan, Wayman, and staff. I had opportunity to speak with the undersheriff about this when we're on a committee together. Again, the education of us that this isn't a garage. No. This is an absolutely essential part of what we do, how we do it, and absolutely needed. So again, I thank you all for your patience or perseverance with those of us who have bald tires in the winter and don't take care of our vehicles enough.
Hey,
We'll leave it at that.
Commissioner Voorhees for the second time?
Yes, thank you, Chair Jones. Well, another issue I didn't bring up, which in my past was a problem, was a paint shop. Do we maintain our own paint facilities, or are we outsourcing this?
Body work, we don't do body work to that extent for painting and such.
You don't want to get near
No.
money.
No, that's, yeah.
Thank you.
Leave that to the private sector.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to Commissioner Miscellaneous this morning. What Commissioner Miscellaneous do we have? Yes, Commissioner Morgan.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. On this same theme of what's old is new again, I got thinking about, in that era of 2003, 2004, we did buy some vacant property to build future administrative offices down there. We have since sold that piece. I have to say that I would really like to see us start keeping our vacant property, so for future building needs, and not so much, I'm not talking about 82 Ionia, so don't get excited about that, but there was, a lot of energy behind moving our administrative offices just down the road on Monroe Street. So just came to my mind, and I'm just going to leave that to my colleagues. Thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Breivy?
Thank you, Chair. It's exciting as we have seen tremendous growth, especially, in the northern and southern parts of the county, that we're able to recognize that there's a need for, services on the north end, as far as, improving the substation up there and also the health department. So I think it's great that we can provide that service to our citizens. And also, knowing our Parks Department and the strength that it is, that we can also have a great place for people to recognize this is the headquarters, and also for staff to park there and to work there and to, enjoy their jobs to the fullest. So I'm excited that we get to have these 3 projects in the works, and I can't wait to see them when they're finished.
Okay, Commissioner Antor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On a personal note, about 3.5 years ago, we, through some very unusual circumstances, had a little girl kind of fall into our laps by the name of Anaya, and we've been taking care of her on and off a little bit. And then all of a sudden, she had a little brother come along about 1.5 years ago, and he fell into our laps as well. So we've had some custody over those 2 for the last, several years. And today is the day, and I didn't think we'd ever get to this day, but they are going to be united with their forever family, who they've been living with now for the last 6 months, in the adoption at the family court. And I can't tell you, if you want to see a grown man cry, I think you show up to the court today, because this has been a really tough road for these kids. And through the grace of God, they have the best family in Kent County that could possibly take these kids in. And now these 2 will be joining 6 other kids, 4 of which were adopted, and it's an incredible family. But they now have 3 5-year-olds in that family, and it's an answer to prayers, and God does answer prayers, even though we get frustrated along the ways. I'm so thankful for family court. Today's gonna be a really big day, so I just wanted to say that, because I know a lot of you knew what we were going through, and this is a big day, so thank you.
Any other Commissioner Miscellaneous? Okay. Administrator Britt would like to make a
Yeah.
comment?
This is a really big day, and I wanted to acknowledge staff for all of their work that they put into this, these 3 requests that have come forth to the board. The 3 infrastructure work sessions that were put on, and this started 2 years ago. Actually, we began the process of putting these together. So just wanted to let you know how much I'm appreciative of staff and all the hard work, due diligence that they put in, working together as a team to get these brought forth, to answer all the questions that you've had in a timely fashion. So thank you to staff for all of your due diligence and your hard work.
Okay, our next meeting date is February 4th. We are adjourned.